I need you to inspect your home immediately. Something big is being hidden from you. I am Elon Musk. Right now, I'm sitting in the little office at the back of my house in Texas, the one nobody ever sees on television. It's almost midnight, the kids are finally asleep, the dogs are curled up on the rug, and the only light is coming from a single warm lamp and the glow of the screen I'm talking to you through. There's a half-empty cup of coffee beside me, and outside the window, the stars look exactly the same as they did when I was a kid in South Africa. Except now I know half of them have my satellites flying past them every 90 minutes. I'm not wearing a suit, I'm in an old black t-shirt and sweatpants, barefoot, hair probably a mess. And I asked the team to let me record this alone tonight because what I have to say feels too personal for a studio, too honest for bright lights and a teleprompter. I just want to talk to you the way I'd talk to my sister or my mom if they were sitting right here across the table. You're probably curled up on your couch or lying in bed right now, scrolling before you fall asleep. Maybe the house is quiet except for the hum of the fridge or the soft sound of your kids breathing down the hall. And I know that feeling, that little pocket of peace at the end of a long day when the world finally leaves you alone. That's exactly the moment I don't want to steal from you, but it's also the moment I need to be completely straight with you about something. There is a device in the room with you right now, probably within arm's reach, that is listening to every word we're saying. You bought it, you plugged it in, you asked it to play your favorite song or set a timer for the cookies in the oven. You probably even told it goodnight once or twice because it felt polite. And in return, it has been watching you, recording you, studying you in the most private space you have, your home. Not because it's evil, not because someone is sitting in a dark room laughing at you, but because that's how it was built. That's how they all were built. I know how crazy that sounds coming from me, of all people. I'm the guy who puts rockets in the sky and cars in tunnels. I love technology more than almost anyone you'll ever meet. But loving something doesn't mean you close your eyes to what it's actually doing when nobody's paying attention. And tonight I just couldn't sleep knowing that millions of women like you, are falling asleep every single night with something in the room that never sleeps, never blinks, and never forgets anything it hears. Have you ever had that moment where an ad pops up for something you only talked about out loud, never typed, never searched for, and you feel that little chill down your spine? You laugh it off with your friends, okay, that's creepy, and then you keep scrolling. I did too, for years. But one day I stopped laughing. One day I realized that chill wasn't just a coincidence, it was proof. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So tonight, just between us, I want to walk you through exactly how we got here. How something that started as convenience quietly turned into the biggest surveillance system the world has ever known. And how it ended up in your bedroom, your bathroom, your kitchen, the places where you cry, where you pray, where you sing off-key in the shower thinking nobody can hear you. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to hand you back the power you didn't even know you'd given away. Because once you know, once you really see it, you get to decide what stays and what goes. And I promise you, that feeling of taking control again, it's one of the best feelings in the world. It started for me on a random Tuesday night in 2018. I was living in that big empty house in Bel Air back then, the one that looked like a museum because I never had time to make it feel like a home. I'd just broken up with someone, I was exhausted, and I was pacing around the kitchen eating cold pizza straight out of the box, talking out loud to nobody like a total lunatic. I remember saying, half joking, you know what I need? A matte green Tesla. Like a British racing green. That would look dope. I wasn't on my phone, I wasn't typing. I was literally talking to the empty room. The next morning I opened Instagram, and the very first thing in my feed was a photoshopped picture someone had made of a Model S in exactly that shade of green. Not an ad, just a random account I didn't even follow. Then an actual ad from a custom shop in Dubai offering to wrap any Tesla in Elon's secret green. I stood there in my underwear holding a cup of coffee, staring at the screen, and felt my stomach drop. I'd spent my whole life building things that listen to people, rockets that follow voice commands, cars that hear you say, navigate home, but I had never once thought the phone in my pocket was listening when I wasn't talking to it. So I did what any self-respecting engineer does when something weird happens, I took it apart. Well, not literally in the kitchen. I drove straight to the SpaceX lab in Hawthorne, walked past everyone working on Dragon capsules, and told my friend Steve I needed the spectrum analyzer for a personal project. We put my iPhone in a Faraday bag, then took it out, then watched the microphone circuit light up like a Christmas tree even when the screen was off and no app was open. We saw tiny packets of data leaving the phone at regular intervals, encrypted, headed to servers I won't name tonight, but you'd recognize the logos. And I just stood there feeling violated. Not angry yet, just deeply, quietly sad. Because in that moment, I thought about my mom. I thought about the nights she used to sit at the kitchen table in Pretoria paying bills, crying quietly so we wouldn't hear. I thought about my sisters whispering in their bedroom about boys and dreams and fears they never told anyone else. I thought about every woman who has ever locked the bathroom door to call her best friend and finally let the tears out. And I realized every single one of those moments is now fair game. Every single one can be recorded, analyzed, turned into a data point, sold to the highest bidder. That was the night I stopped treating it like a conspiracy theory and started treating it like an engineering problem. Because once something is an engineering problem, it has a solution. And I make my living solving problems most people think are impossible. Fast forward to Father's Day 2021. My little girl X, she was 6 years old, tiny pigtails, and that huge smile that makes the whole world stop. She had saved her allowance for weeks and picked out the cutest little Alexa Echo Dot, the one shaped like an owl with big cartoon eyes. She wrapped it herself in about 40 feet of tape and handed it to me like it was made of gold. Daddy, now you can play Baby Shark whenever you want without looking for the remote. I laughed so hard I almost cried. I set it up in my bedroom that same night because how do you say no to that face? I even did the voice thing, Alexa, tell X I love her. And the owl eyes lit up and it said in that cheerful voice, X, your dad loves you to the moon and back. She squealed from the other room. Best Father's Day gift ever. For about a week it was actually kind of fun. I'd walk in and say, Alexa, play something that doesn't suck, and it would play Radiohead or Sinatra depending on its mood. But then one night I was on a call with some engineers, nothing top secret, just normal shop talk, and someone mentioned casually that Amazon had just admitted they keep voice recordings indefinitely unless you manually delete them. And even then, the transcripts stay forever for training purposes. I hung up the phone and just stared at that little plastic owl glowing softly on my nightstand. I waited till the house was asleep, then I got a screwdriver, took it to the kitchen island, and opened it up right there next to the leftover birthday cake. Inside was exactly what I expected, a microphone better than the ones we used on the first Falcon 1, always-on circuitry, and a Wi-Fi chip that never actually powers down. It looked innocent, it looked like a toy. But it was a studio-quality listening device pointed at my bed, where I talk in my sleep, where I argue with myself about whether I'm a good father, where I sometimes cry when nobody's watching. I sat there at 2 a.m. holding those tiny pieces in my hand and felt this wave of father guilt crash over me. Because I realized that little girl who gave me that gift is gonna grow up in a world where every tantrum, every teenage heartbreak, every whispered secret to a friend might be recorded by something she thinks is her friend. And I just thought, not my kid. Not while I'm still breathing. So I did what any rational dad would do. I put the owl back together, set it on the counter, and told it very calmly, Alexa, forget everything you ever heard in this house. Then I unplugged it, dropped it in a Faraday pouch I keep for rocket testing, and drove to Home Depot at 3 in the morning to buy a regular old radio alarm clock like it's 1995. The next morning X came looking for her owl, and I told her it flew away to help another little girl. She bought it. Kids are magic that way. And I made a promise to myself that night, I will never again let convenience cost my daughter her privacy. Not one single conversation, not one single tear. And that promise changed everything about how I think about the things we bring into our homes. Those moments that belong only to you. I want to slow down here because this is the part that keeps me awake more than rocket explosions or market crashes. This is the part that actually hurts. Picture the night you found the lump. You're standing in the shower, water loud enough to cover any sound, and you're trying to stay calm while your fingers search for it again just to be sure. You finally shut the water off, wrap yourself in a towel, and sit on the edge of the tub with a phone in your shaking hand. You call your mom or your sister or your best friend from college who's been through this before. You keep your voice low because the kids are asleep down the hall and you don't want to scare them. You say things like, "I'm sure it's nothing," even though your heart is pounding so hard you can hear it. You cry quietly. You bargain with God. You ask the person on the other end of the line to please not tell anyone yet. That conversation is sacred. That conversation is yours. Except it isn't anymore. That phone on the bathroom counter heard every word. The smart speaker in the hallway that you asked to play white noise for the baby heard the tremor in your voice. The TV in the bedroom that was off but still plugged in registered the late-night movement through its motion sensors. And every single one of those devices packaged your fear, labeled it elevated stress, possible health anxiety, and shipped it off to servers in Virginia or Oregon or Ireland before you even made the doctor's appointment. I know this because Sarah's story isn't the only one. We've seen the data dumps. We've seen the insurance companies buying emotional volatility scores derived from voice patterns. We've seen credit card companies adjust limits based on how many times someone says the word broke or behind in their own living room. We've seen fertility apps get sold data about how often a woman cries in the 2 weeks after a negative pregnancy test. This isn't science fiction, this is Tuesday. Think about the conversations you only have when you're sure no one else is listening. The ones about your marriage falling apart. The ones about your kid's teacher who doesn't understand him. The ones about the eating disorder you thought you had beaten. The ones about how you're terrified you're becoming your mother. Think about the prayers you whisper when you're folding tiny socks and wondering how you're gonna pay for daycare next month. Think about the way you sometimes stand in the kitchen after everyone's asleep and say out loud, "I can't do this anymore." Because there's nobody there to hear you. They hear you. And they don't care that it was the worst day of your life. They only care that distressed female voice, age 30 to 45, keywords, tired, doctor, scared is worth 0.08 cents when sold in bulk to a company that wants to sell you anti-anxiety medication or a meditation app or a life coach who promises to help you step into your power. You deserve to fall apart in your own house without filling out a form in triplicate. You deserve to be messy and scared and human without some algorithm deciding your pain is profitable. You deserve to lock the door, turn off the lights, and know, really know, that the only witness to your breaking is the God you believe in or the silence you don't. That is not too much to ask. That is the bare minimum of what it means to be alive. When the ads know you cried before your best friend does, the worst trick they ever pulled was making us feel grateful for the knife while they were still twisting it. You fight with your husband about money, about how there's never enough, about how you're both so tired you can't even look at each other anymore. You go to bed angry, backs turned, pretending to sleep. You wake up the next morning, pour coffee with shaking hands, open Instagram, and the very first post is a smiling couple on a beach with the caption, "Debt-free in 36 months." Ask us how. The next one is an ad for marriage counseling with a special new client discount. The one after that is a credit card offer with 0% interest for people who need a fresh start. You laugh, 'cause what else can you do? You show your husband and say, "Okay, that's creepy." And he shrugs and says, "Yeah, the phone's always listening." And you both go back to pretending everything's fine because the kids need breakfast and the dog threw up on the carpet and life doesn't stop just because your heart is cracking open. But something quietly dies in that moment. Something about the safety of your own walls. 'Cause now even your worst fights come with a sponsored solution. Even your grief gets an affiliate link. I watched it happen to someone I loved. We had one of those nights where everything spilled out, years of pressure, fear, resentment. The kind of honesty that leaves you raw. She fell asleep crying. I stayed on the couch staring at the ceiling until dawn. When she woke up she reached for her phone the way we all do, looking for a tiny hit of dopamine to make the day bearable. And the first thing she saw was an ad for a weekend retreat called Reconnect, Healing Broken Bonds. The photo was actually taken at the exact hotel where we'd spent our honeymoon. She looked at me with tears still drying on her face and whispered, "Did you do this?" I wish I had. At least then it would have come from love. That's when I understood the deepest insult. They don't just take your privacy, they take your dignity. They wait until you're bleeding and then try to sell you a bandage with their logo on it. And the sickest part is how often we buy it, 'cause for 1 second it feels like someone noticed we were hurting. I don't want you to ever have to pay for comfort with the currency of your own pain. I want you to be able to cry in your kitchen at 1 a.m. without some company deciding your tears are a lead generation opportunity. I want the most wounded parts of you to stay sacred, not sponsored. How I took my house back, one piece of tape at a time. So I started fighting back in the smallest, quietest ways. 'Cause big dramatic gestures don't last, but habits do. First thing I did was walk through every room with a roll of black electrical tape. Every camera got covered. The laptop, the work monitors, the big living room TV, the baby monitor that came with a 4K camera for some reason, even the Tesla in the garage that has 12 of them. Grimes came home the first night and said, "Honey, did we get robbed by minimalist burglars?" I told her no, we got robbed by billion-dollar companies and I was just putting the loot back in the safe. Then I killed the smart speakers. All of them. I boxed them up and drove them to the office and left them in the free stuff bin with a note that said, "Still listens when you think it doesn't." People thought I was being dramatic. I thought I was being a dad. I replaced them with dumb speakers. Beautiful ones actually. Old Marantz amps and Bowers and Wilkins that sound like heaven and don't have a single microphone. I run them off an iPod Classic I bought on eBay for $40. Turns out music sounds better when it isn't spying on you. I had the Tesla team design a physical microphone kill switch for the house. It's a plain white switch plate next to the light switches that cuts power to every always-on mic in the walls, the TVs, the fridge that apparently needs to talk to the internet to keep my milk cold. Flip it down, and the house goes silent in the way houses used to be silent. We liked it so much we're putting the same switch in the new Cybertruck. I leave my phone in the kitchen at night now, inside an old metal lunchbox lined with copper mesh. Looks ridiculous, works perfectly. And if I need to check something after hours, I walk downstairs like it's 1998. Nobody knows I'm awake. Nobody tracks my nightmares. I turned off location history, microphone access, background app refresh for everything that doesn't need it to function. My battery lasts 3 days now and my soul feels 10 pounds lighter. I still get where I'm going. I still talk to the people I love. I just do it on my terms. None of this made my life harder. It made it quieter, calmer, mine again. You don't have to do everything I did. You don't have to spend a dime. But you can start tonight with one piece of tape, one setting changed, one phone left outside the bedroom door. And every time you make one of those tiny choices, you're telling the machines and the companies behind them, and most importantly yourself, that your home is still your home. And that small act of rebellion feels like the first deep breath you've taken in years. I'm not gonna give you a 40-page white paper or tell you to move off-grid. I'm gonna give you 7 moves that together take less than an hour, cost literally $0, except maybe one strip of tape, and will immediately hand you back more peace than you felt in years. I do every single one of them myself. Here they are. First, cover every camera in the house tonight. Walk room to room with a roll of black electrical tape or a pack of those little sliding webcam covers you can buy for $3 on Amazon, but tape works just as well. Laptop lid, phone front and back covered, tablet covered, smart TV, yes, even when it's off, covered, baby monitor covered, Ring doorbell inside lens covered. The first time I did this, I found 14 cameras I didn't even know were there. 14. When you peel off that last piece of tape and stick it down, you will feel something shift in your chest. It's the feeling of closing the curtains after realizing you've been changing clothes in front of an open window for years. Second, kill the microphone permissions. Open your phone right now. Settings, privacy, a microphone on iPhone, or settings, apps, permissions on Android. Scroll slowly. You're gonna see apps you haven't opened in months that somehow still have full-time listening rights. Facebook, Instagram, a random grocery app, some game your kid downloaded once. Turn every single one off except the actual phone app and whatever you use for real calls. The apps do not break, they just stop eavesdropping. I did this on my daily driver, and exactly 0 things stopped working. My battery life doubled and my soul felt 10 pounds lighter. Third, banish the phone from the bedroom. Buy a $9 alarm clock tomorrow. They still sell them at Walmart, I checked. And start charging your phone in the kitchen or living room overnight. The first night feels weird. The second night, you sleep like a kid again. No more blue light, no more phantom buzzes, no more microphone 2 feet from your pillow recording the 3 a.m. fight with your husband or the sound of you crying into the pillow. Just you, the dark, and actual rest. Fourth, create a safe talk zone. Pick one place in or near your house the machines haven't colonized yet. For me, it's the back porch or the front seat of the car with the engine off. When you need to talk about money, health, your marriage, your kids' real struggles, anything that would hurt if it showed up as an ad tomorrow, take the conversation there. Leave phones inside. Close the door. Speak out loud to another human being and know, for the first time in years, that the only record is memory and love. Fifth, put every smart speaker on a physical switch. Go on Amazon and order a $15 smart plug, or just use a $3 power strip with an on-off switch. Plug Alexa or Google Home or whatever cute little cylinder you have into it. When you're done asking it to play Taylor Swift or set an egg timer, flip the switch. No power equals no listening. The device doesn't care. You still get all the convenience, none of the surveillance. I have one in the kitchen now, and the kids think it's normal to put Alexa to bed when we're done with her. Sixth, delete your voice history and turn off storage. Tonight, while you're still holding the phone, go to your Amazon account, Alexa Privacy, review voice history and delete everything. All of it. Then turn off Save Recordings. Do the same in the Google Home app and the Apple HomePod settings if you have them. You will some of them from moments you forgot even happened. And you will feel the strangest mix of relief and rage. Relief that they're gone, rage that they existed in the first place. Seventh, start the habit of the cookie tin Faraday cage. Grab any metal cookie tin or lunchbox. Line it with a tea towel so it doesn't scratch the screen. And when you need 5 minutes of guaranteed privacy, put the phone inside and close the lid. It blocks every signal. I keep one on the kitchen counter. Looks ridiculous, works perfectly. Use it when you're on the phone with a doctor, when you're fighting with your teenager, when you're on the verge of tears and don't want your breakdown turned into tomorrow's targeted ad for Prozac. 7 steps. 1 evening. $0 if you already own tape and a cookie tin. And when you're done, you will walk through your house and realize it feels different. Quieter. Safer. Yours. That's not paranoia talking, that's power coming home. Let me be very clear, I am not telling you to smash your iPhone with a hammer and move to a yurt. I love these devices. I'm holding one right now. I built half my companies on them. The camera takes better pictures of my kids than any camera I owned growing up. The maps get me home when I'm lost in a new city at midnight. Group texts keep me connected to 20 people across 3 continents without a single stamp. The problem has never been the rectangle of glass and metal. The problem is the unspoken deal we were forced into. You can have the miracle, but only if we get to watch you 24/7. I refuse that deal. And you can too. At Tesla, we're shipping cars next year with a physical button that kills every interior microphone and camera with one press. No software switch buried in a menu, an actual hardware interrupt. Press it, and the car goes legally blind and deaf inside. You still get navigation, music, autopilot, everything. You just get to decide when the car looks at your kids in the back seat. At XA, we're training Grok without ever touching your private messages or your voice recordings unless you explicitly hand them over. We believe an AI can be helpful and hilarious and still respect the line between public and private. On X, we're building tools so you can speak freely without some advertiser building a permanent file on the worst day of your life. This isn't anti-progress. This is progress done right. Technology that lifts you up instead of locking you in. You don't have to choose between being a Luddite and being livestock. You get to be a grown woman who uses the best tools humanity has ever invented and still gets to close the damn door when she needs to cry or pray or make love or scream into a pillow. That's not radical. That's the bare minimum we should have demanded from day one.